The Power of No, written by James Altucher, summarized by Audiobook Time. In a world that bombards us with endless opportunities and obligations, saying yes has become second nature. We say yes to commitments we don't have time for, yes to projects that don't align with our passions, and yes to people who drain our energy. But what if the key to true freedom and empowerment lies not in saying yes, but in saying no? In The Power of No, James Altucher delivers a profound exploration of the transformative force hidden within the simple act of saying no. Drawing from his own experiences as a successful entrepreneur, investor, and writer, Altucher unveils the profound impact that embracing the power of no can have on every aspect of our lives. With wit, wisdom, and a refreshing dose of honesty, Altucher challenges conventional wisdom and invites readers on a journey to reclaim their time, energy, and autonomy. Through insightful anecdotes, practical advice, and thought-provoking exercises, he illuminates the myriad ways in which saying no can lead to greater fulfillment, creativity, and success. From setting boundaries in relationships to prioritizing personal well-being, The Power of No offers a roadmap for navigating life's complexities with clarity and confidence. Altucher argues that by learning to say no to the things that don't serve us, we can make room for the people, projects, and pursuits that truly matter. More than just a guide to assertiveness, this book is a manifesto for reclaiming ownership of our lives and embracing the power of choice. It's a call to arms for anyone who's felt overwhelmed by the demands of modern living and yearns for a simpler, more meaningful existence. Bold, provocative, and ultimately liberating, The Power of No is a testament to the transformative potential of a single word. It's a rallying cry for those ready to break free from the tyranny of yes and embrace a life of authenticity, purpose, and possibility. Have you ever heard the phrase, "No is a complete sentence"? Our lives are becoming cluttered because of our refusal to say no. In a bid to help declutter our lives, and rid ourselves of obligations, James Altucher and Claudia Angela Altucher provide a helpful guide to set us on the path of health, abundance, and happiness. The Power of No gives a nod to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and delves into why saying no gives back our power and freedom. It's not just about granting ourselves permission to say no, but embracing the power to declare no. Having a greater sense of what saying no can do, allows us to say yes to the most meaningful things. The Power of No gives a nod to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and delves into why saying no gives back our power and freedom. It's not just about granting ourselves permission to say no, but embracing the power to declare no. Having a greater sense of what saying no can do, allows us to say yes to the most meaningful things. The authors share their wisdom and insights into why we shouldn't be frugal with our NOS, through compelling anecdotes and life lessons. There are also exercises to help us get started on the journey of taking control, and learning when to say yes. Our inability to say no overwhelms us, and adds things to the already growing list of time-consuming tasks. The Power of No teaches us to be brave and listen to our anxieties, pain, and suffering. It unpacks the influence of peer pressure, the need to adhere to social norms and expectations, and teaches us to rid ourselves of anything toxic and distracting. We're conditioned to say yes. This book provides a framework that focuses on serving ourselves, and saying no to anything that harms our creativity and ability to reach our full potential. We're entitled to lead more meaningful lives and should focus on what we value. We don't need to impress other people, or say yes just because we feel that we have to. Let's briefly look at why saying no is enough, and how saying it more often might just save our lives. Choose life might remind you of the famous monologue from Trainspotting. However, it's also one of the fundamental ideas in the book. The authors argue that saying no more frequently will literally save our lives. How often have you pursued a relationship with someone who doesn't feel the same way about you, or is clearly wrong for you? How often have you overcommitted to things, or made promises out of obligation? Maybe you've felt in denial about what your gut feeling is telling you, perhaps you've pushed aside your anxiety, or perhaps you've made yourself crazy with pros and cons lists. Have you ever stopped to think about how quickly we say yes to things, and how many questions we ask ourselves before we commit to saying no. Saying no takes time, and it also means admitting certain hard truths that we may not want to deal with. However, freeing ourselves of the burden of all the time it takes to say no, and realizing how healthy it is to refuse things, gives us back the power. The lesson is that we need to learn to say no, as quickly as we say yes. Choosing life is about understanding that nobody has it easy, and that struggle is one of the critical aspects of life. Have you ever thought to yourself, "I want to die"? You might utter these words to yourself in the midst of extreme suffering. The authors suggest that it's at this point that we need to use this to transform and re-evaluate our suffering. We should use these moments of suffering to kill old ways of thinking, and see what emerges as a rebirth. For example, say no to things that harm you and cause you hurt. When you choose life, you say goodbye to bad habits that could kill you, toxic people who cause stress, and situations that bring you pain. An exercise to help us choose life, and maximize joy and happiness, is to rid ourselves of people who bring negative energy into our lives. We're entitled to choose who we let into our lives, and determining who's in our inner circle can help with this. Begin by writing down a list of people who you see at least 5 times a week. Next, rate how these people make you feel when you interact with them. By assigning each person a score from 1 to 10, you can ascertain which people to spend more time with, and who to limit contact with. Finally, be honest with yourself about your behaviors. In particular, look out for any addictive or habitual behaviors that may be causing you harm. Choose values what matters most to you, and do you have a clear sense of your interests? For many of us, defining our interests can be tricky. The authors suggest a less intimidating approach to this task though. Why not visit your local bookstore or library and browse for a while? You'll find that you naturally gravitate towards areas that interest you. Perhaps you find yourself browsing cookery books, or books on architecture. Maybe you find yourself thumbing through a copy of the Histories of the Ancient World. Wherever you end up looking, this will ultimately shine a light on some of your fundamental interests. It's essential to have a sense of your interests and values, so that you can tailor your decisions based on whether or not they align. It's a lot easier when you're equipped to say no to things that aren't attuned to your value system, and you can learn to be assertive. Many of us have said yes to things that don't make us feel authentic, and although our guts might warn us, we often succumb to the pressure and forge ahead. Many of us have been in relationships with people who don't share our values. Values are crucial, and saying yes for the wrong reasons leads to resentment and bitterness. In cases such as these, we find ourselves in lose-lose situations because of how saying yes makes us feel. Choosing values and prioritizing interests invites passion into our lives. And there's no better way to inspire than to exude passion and excitement. Choose silence. We live in a culture where everywhere we look, something, or someone, is trying to grab our attention. We're bombarded with advertising, new products to buy, news, gossip, rumors, social media, and so on. We're given so many choices, and told that we continuously need more stuff. This is the point where we need to say no to noise. We believe that things are scarce, but they're not. This belief that we're lacking makes us obsess over accumulating objects and possessions. We need to realize that more doesn't equal more, and that we need to go back to the basics and embrace simplicity. Once we believe that we have enough, we can start focusing on what's truly important. Furthermore, this will allow us the freedom to say no to excess, and say yes to gratitude. The lesson here is to focus on abundance. The trouble is that we have a historical scarcity complex, which is guided by the fact that humans have evolved thinking that everything is scarce. Nowadays, we have an abundance of resources, yet we hold on to the fixed belief that resources are scarce, and that we need more of everything. The authors offer some suggestions to embrace the silence and open the door to a happier, fuller, and more abundant life. It starts with gratitude and believing that the glass isn't just half full, but that it's overflowing. For example, if you're stuck in traffic, instead of moaning about it, focus on the world around you. Notice the infrastructure, the architecture around you, the other people you're surrounded by. Focus on what you're listening to on the radio, and how incredible technology and progress has been. Listen to other people. One of the most profound messages in the book is to let people finish their sentences. Imagine that it's their last day to live, and truly focus on what they're saying, and give them your full attention. We also need to listen to ourselves. Try to block out the noise, and listen to your thoughts. If you have a nagging negative thought, shout no at it. Continue to shout no until it goes away. With enough listening and enough persistence and discipline, your negative thoughts will diminish. Listen to your anxiety and pain. Anxiety is how our bodies warn us about toxic people or situations. Why do certain people or situations make you anxious? If you're distracted by too much noise, this blocks out what your body is trying to tell you. So never underestimate the power of silence. Switch off the things that are causing you pain, and focus instead on the things that make you feel good. Choose you. It's not what other people want for you, it's what you want for yourself. So say yes to yourself. We know that getting everything we want doesn't make us happy. Having a sense of purpose and meaning is what makes us happy. Finding our purpose often comes through suffering, as indicated by Siddhartha Gautama's story, better known to us as Buddha. Siddhartha Gautama chose his own path, and followed his own calling, to create a life that fulfilled him. He experienced and witnessed much suffering, but through this was able to identify his true purpose. So much of our lives are governed by social norms and expectations. We're expected to go to college, get married, get a good job, buy a house, etc. But what if we don't want these things? We need to ask ourselves what we want for ourselves. What are the things you really want to do? Finding our true calling is different from asking ourselves what we crave. Often what we crave isn't actually what we need. Furthermore, usually what we crave has detrimental consequences. For example, we may crave a bigger house. And, while having a roof over our heads is important, having a bigger home may lead to financial problems. Rather than giving in to cravings, adopt an attitude of gratitude. And, rather than saying yes to things, say yes to yourself. A way to make this easier is to start a gratitude diary, where you focus on everything positive about your life. Start by listing all of your problems, then begin writing a list of 10 things you're grateful for each day. These could be things as seemingly insignificant as breathing. The more we get into the habit of gratitude, the more we're able to rid ourselves of things that harm us, and focus on the abundance of things we're grateful for. Another exercise is what's known as the alien technique. When you wake up in the morning, imagine that you're inhabiting this human body for just 24 hours. Focus on the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental aspects of the body, and make decisions based on the idea that everything you're doing is to keep your host body alive. Every choice you make, every yes, and every no, will significantly affect the person's physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental well-being. Notice how you choose to live your life that day, and what you decide to say yes to. Completing this exercise might change your perspective on things like eating, exercising, meditating, and sleeping. In conclusion, the power of no teaches us to live in the present by saying no to the past and future. It also shows us that learning to give an assertive no is liberating and gives us agency. Understanding the rationale behind why we make the decisions that we do, and why we jump to say yes, helps us adjust our behavior. One of the crucial adjustments that we need to make is to decide that we need to live life for ourselves, not for other people. We need to say no to trying to impress the people around us, and feeling obligated or guilt into doing things we don't want to. Choosing to move forwards means saying no to toxic people who bring doubt and negativity into your life. Say no to things that harm you, things that aren't working for you, and beliefs that don't align with your values. The freedom to say yes allows us to say yes to reinvention, yes to creativity and ideas, yes to following dreams, and yes to small changes that make huge differences. Significant yes have a ripple effect, so say yes to the right things. Flex your idea muscle, find an abundance of gratitude, embrace silence, and never underestimate the power of sleep. Above all, choose life. As we reach the closing pages of The Power of No by James Altucher, we find ourselves not at the end of a journey, but at the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. Armed with newfound clarity and conviction, we stand on the threshold of a future defined by choice, authenticity, and empowerment. Throughout these pages, Altucher has illuminated the transformative potential of saying no. He's shown us that in a world of endless demands and distractions, the power to choose what we say yes to is the power to shape our destiny. But as we prepare to close this book, we must recognize that our journey is far from over. Saying no is not merely a skill to be mastered, it's a mindset to be cultivated, a way of life to be embraced. It's about more than just setting boundaries or declining invitations, it's about reclaiming ownership of our time, energy, and attention. It's about honoring our values, pursuing our passions, and living life on our own terms. As we venture forth into the unknown, let us carry with us the lessons learned from The Power of No. Let us remember that saying no is not a sign of weakness, but a declaration of strength. Let us have the courage to walk away from the things that no longer serve us, and the wisdom to embrace the opportunities that align with our true selves. But let us also remember that saying no is not always easy. It requires courage, conviction, and sometimes, a willingness to stand alone. Yet, in the face of uncertainty and doubt, let us take solace in the knowledge that by saying no to the wrong things, we make room for the right things to enter our lives. So as we bid farewell to these pages, let us carry forward the spirit of the power of no in all that we do. Let us embrace the freedom that comes from living with intention and integrity. And let us never forget that the power to shape our lives lies not in the hands of fate, but in the simple act of saying no.